Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. It's a nice change to be starting one of these meetings while there's some daylight. So that's a good sign. Would like to call to order the Pickering School Building Committee. Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Brian Castellanos, Deb Ruggiero,
Present.
Diana Tracudis. I saw her earlier. Diana,
I don't see her.
she's on.
Oh, there
She's on the list. Yeah. Councilor Kudish, are you? Yeah, there we go.
Flory Makua,
Present.
Jim Ridley,
Present.
Joe Smart,
Present.
Karen Miller,
Present.
Kevin Ritterhouse. I saw him on earlier too.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Okay. He's on the list here. Lauren Drago, Lorraine Gately,
Present.
Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan,
Present.
Molly Cohen, Peter Koulikides,
Present.
Rich Marlin, Rick Staubert, he said he would be absent, Tom Mannion,
Present.
Mayor McGee,
Present.
Wayne Losey. And that's it. And Lauren Drago is joining.
Wonderful. All right. I will turn it over to you, Lynn.
Okay. Gene's going to be sharing the presentation, so let me give him the host.
Lynn, you made Jim Ridley the host.
Sorry
I
about
don't mind
that.
being the host.
Well, okay, sorry about that, Jim. You're gonna have to, I think
Always stepping up for the city of Lynn.
That's right, baby.
Jim, you're gonna have to release the host.
He's the best.
Can you do that?
What do I need to do?
You have to go to your name and you have to click on the dots and just
Okay, I get
release.
to click on it once.
Yeah, or either make Gene Raymond the host.
Does it say whether it says rename?
Yeah, does it have say release host?
No, it just says mute, stop, choose, pin, spotlight, hide self, and then rename.
All right, click on Gene's box, and that you should be able to make him host there, right?
Okay, where's Gene?
He's right below you.
Well, I just lost the whole thing. What'd I do? Can you
Just go
still
to the
hear me?
people.
Yep,
Yeah,
we can hear
we
you.
can hear you.
I just lost the
Sorry
whole
about
lot. I just lost somebody say. I don't know what I did. Open link. Oh, here we go. All right, so what you said, where's Gene? Right below me?
On my list, he is.
No, I got it's Karen.
I'll wave. I'm waving
Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay, so
All right.
just click on Gene.
on the three
You
dots.
have to click on his name under participants. I'm sorry about this.
Oh, down at the bottom then. Participants on the bottom.
And then there comes a list comes up once you click on that, and you should
Okay, all right, there's the list. Okay.
click
And
on
then
Gene.
where's Gene? Gene Raymond. Okay, I got you.
See the box when you click to the right hand side, there's a box. Click on that and you could say make host.
Okay, Gene Raymond is on the right side. Okay, where it says more.
Yep.
Okay. Make host. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, that wasn't me.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Ridley.
All right, we're good to go.
You're a good host while it lasted.
Pressure.
All right, so you can see my messy screen, right?
Yep.
All right.
All right, I'll just go to slideshow. From the beginning. So here we are,
Okay.
March 29th.
Right. Thank you all for being patient there. Next up, I'll go through the agenda for tonight. We have some administrative actions, approval of the meeting minutes, and a official formal of budget revision request number 3. Also, I'll hand it over to Gene and he'll go through the designer updates. We'll show you the progress made to date on the options. We'll also respond to some feedback we've heard on the option that we presented last time, option 7, and provide responses to that. We'll give you a quick update on the Article 97 process, and we will ask if everyone's comfortable to vote to approve the selection of the preferred option. Then after that, I'd like to do a presentation on construction management at risk versus design bid build. These are the 2 construction delivery methods that are available to us. And if you're comfortable at the end of that presentation and would like to vote on a preferred construction delivery method, we'd like to ask for that vote.
And I'll call you until about 8 o'clock in the
And
middle
then-
of something.
And
Family
then,
issue.
then we will quickly review the schedule and open it up to other business. Next, Jean. First up is the vote to approve the March 15th SBC meeting minutes. Hopefully you received those in your packet from Tim earlier.
What's the will of the committee?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Next.
Right.
So just to explain a little bit, we've asked you to vote these in the past. It's a requirement of MSBA that the school building committee is aware of the moves that we make within inside the budget. And this is our budget revision request number 3. It does not change the actual feasibility study and schematic design budget. It's just moving money from one of our budget categories to the other. We are moving money from the other category to the environmental and site category because we needed to partially fund some of our design work that's our consultant work that's needed in order to provide the MEPA and Article 97 permitting, also to do some soils investigations, borings, test bits, the additional ones that we did, the GRP surveying, and then also the surveying services for the Article 97 land conversions. So we're moving $126,163 to the environmental and site budget. And that leaves $107,390 left in our other budget, other contingency budget. If anyone has, does anyone have any
Motion to approve.
questions?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Yes.
Brian Castellanos, Deb Ruggiero, Diana Charkudis,
Yeah, yes.
Lori Makua,
Yes.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley,
Yes,
John Ford, Joe Smart,
Yes.
Karen Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Yes.
Lauren Drago,
Yes.
Lorraine Gately,
Yes.
Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan,
Yes.
Molly Cohen, Peter Kudalkitis,
Yes.
Rich Marlin, Rick Starbird, Tom Mannion,
Yes.
Tom McGee,
Yes.
Wayne Lozey. That's it. Jean, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Lynn, thank you. So we have a number of slides, but it's essentially a recap of what we had shown you a couple weeks ago. And as Lynn mentioned on the agenda, I think, at least I walked away with a sense of the meeting that of the 5 viable options, option 7 was seeming to make the most sense. And it's kind of our recommendation to the committee, but obviously it's up to the committee to determine what they think is the best option for this project. And when we submit to MSBA at the end of April, we do need to have a vote from the committee that one of these options is what they would like the MSBA board to approve to go into the next level of development. So we don't need to vote tonight, but if you're comfortable, a vote tonight would kind of take that off the table, and the design team could kind of dig into the preferred option a little more for the submission at the end of April. So again, a lot of slides. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly because we have some new images, but really the gist of things haven't changed since we last saw you. Just as a quick recap, RDA kind of internally had done our own order of magnitude cost estimating. And if you remember, like a couple of the options down on Magnolia Field, we knew right out of the park that it was going to be $20 million just to get a foundation in. So currently there are 2 sets of professional estimators looking at all 5 of these options. So these numbers that are up on the screen, again, they're order of magnitude, and we will get I'll call them official, but we'll get professional cost estimators. Left Field has one group looking at it. We have another group looking at it, and we'll reconcile the 2 estimates. And these numbers may change going forward, but I would think that the ranking, from low to high would still be in the same order. So we had the code upgrade, which is not going to happen, but MSBA, wants you to take a look at it. I mean, you may, I'm not saying the city won't do some upgrades at Pickering, but if we brought the whole building up to the current code, it was about 76 million, 100% of that would be by the city. MSBA would not participate because you're not addressing the educational program. Then we looked at 5B. We do have some images. We've kind of flushed out floor plans and what it might look like if you put an addition onto Pickering. And remember that we would need to take properties out towards Broadway. We'd need to build the addition, which is the same timeline as building a new building, and then you'd have to renovate. So it's an extended schedule, and therefore between the takings and the schedule it's the most expensive of the options, around 207 million. Then we looked at the 2 options down on Magnolia, which again I'll go through with you, but one that just stays on Magnolia, one that bridges over to Sisson, and both of those were around 193 million. And then we looked at that 5-story, which is frankly kind of our recommendation. It was all on the Sisson site. A little bit goes on to Magnolia Park, but it was about 161 million. So this is the site plan for the addition renovation. The existing Sisson school would stay where it is, this wing. The play area would stay the same. Because Pickering would take some properties out towards Broadway, and we'd essentially be building, most of the building would be new, and then we'd be renovating part of the existing Pickering. but we'd be putting in a new cafeteria, a new gymnasium, so we could turn those facilities over to Sisson. We, on all these options, have added up the number of parking spaces needed. So, we're showing, where we would need parking for this project. Looking from Magnolia Ave across the park with the existing Pickering and Sisson and the modulars, the addition, we would take down the back wing of one of the wings of Pickering, and we build a 4-story facade facing the baseball field. We need to get some natural light into the middle, so we have a courtyard up on the top. I'm not going to go through all the floor plans, but we have to prove to ourselves and to MSBA that the square footage we're showing is appropriate. So we actually lay out all the programmatic spaces. And you can see here, Sisson is shaded in gray, and they're capturing the cafeteria and their cafeteria and kitchen down here, and they're capturing the gymnasium up here for their own use. They also might be able to capture a few adjoining classrooms in the old Pickering building. So looking, again, from Wyoma Square, kind of over some of the commercial buildings, you can get a sense for the scale of the new building. It'd be 4 stories facing the ballpark, as I said. The cafeteria would have big windows, obviously looking out. And then it would be kind of 3 stories as you go to the corner of Broadway and Canomo. And then this is looking from across the street where that little restaurant is. So the existing Pickering is right here, and Sisson's in the background. So this kind of gives some, the scale compared to some of the commercial buildings on Broadway here. So again, this was the most expensive option, the most disruptive, the longest time period. And I guess that's kind of a summary of it. Does anyone have any questions about that, or any thoughts on that option?
I do. Just a quick question here, Gene. By this option, that means Sisson will receive all new MEP, correct? So,
No, to be honest, we have to limit it, Flory, we have to limit it to the areas here that are in black and white. And the Sisson areas would not be reimbursed by MSBA because it's not part of the project.
But if they share all the MEP, you can't. I don't think you can just sever Pickering with actually touching Sisson. So meaning if you renovate Pickering, we have to backfeed Sisson with all new MEP, correct?
So the Sisson, the boiler room currently is right here, if you can see where it's circling, and that does serve Pickering and Sisson above.
Right.
And that would just remain for Sisson.
Okay.
And then the Pickering would have its own mechanical electrical system. So
Okay.
they literally would be separate.
So it won't be like killing two birds, one stone type of situation.
No.
Okay.
I'll say the other thing, all the other options, you're building a new Pickering, so you're leaving kind of the existing Pickering, which I think is a pro, right? You're leaving it so Sisson or any other elementary student could kind of, you'd be capturing another school that you could use for elementary kids. But in this option, you can't, because Sisson gains a gym and a calf, but everything else is used by Pickering. Does anyone else have any questions about this option? If not, I'll just go on to the next, and we can come back to any of these. But again, we do want to show MSBA, that we've explored massing. how it fits.
Jean.
Sure. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi. I do have a question about that option. Could you go back for a minute?
Sure.
So in that option, we would have to take the old library,
Mm-hmm.
now recently bought by somebody, And then any property?
Yes, I don't know. So I think this is the old library on the corner.
Mhm.
I think there's a church, whether it's an
Oh,
active
you'd have
church
to
or
take
not.
the church too?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You pretty much have to take everything from the drive-in behind Pickering up to Canomo. I mean, this
And-
is the magnitude of the,
And a house as well, right, Gene?
yes.
At least
So
one
there-
house.
So there's 3 or 4 properties there that would have to be taken.
And then because it's an addition renovation, most of the costs would be on the city?
No, if that was the first option, which I haven't shown you, and I apologize, it's probably confusing. They want you to know if you didn't put any addition, you just brought the existing building up to code,
Oh.
how much would the city have to pay?
All right.
And they want you to know that, not so much them. Um,
All right. I just wanted to make sure that it would be almost the whole block.
it would,
Okay.
it would.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I understood that clearly. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this line right here is the edge of the Pickering parking lot. So
Mhm.
it's everything between that and Broadway.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the next one that we had explored with you was building a freestanding Pickering on Magnolia Park. And you can see that we've kind of figured out all the parkings so that we could park all the people that work in the new Pickering, all the people that work in Sisson, and then all the people that might work in whatever the old Pickering turns into. And it's always our assumption that the old Pickering would probably be used for additional elementary capacity. Whether that happens or not, we have assumed that just so that we could make sure we have enough parking if this is used as a school. So I think you've seen this diagram again. It's a 4-story building, and it has the cafeteria and the gymnasium on the front of the building. So that's a 2-story facade, kind of in scale with the other buildings on Magnolia. And then the 4-story classroom building is on the back. And you can see that there's this new kind of link road that goes between Broadway, behind the old Pickering, and then comes out onto Magnolia. The tennis courts stay, the Sisson play area stays, the modulars. You know, we kind of leave everything up here as is. Again, not going to go through the floor plans, but we had done this with you before, and we've accommodated locker rooms and toilet rooms and everything that's in the program. So we know that what we're showing you can fit the program. This is just another view, if you were a bird's eye view looking out over the housing authority, you know, with the cafeteria looking out towards Flax Pond. This happens to be the existing basketball courts. The playground would have to be replaced kind of over in this area here. And then this is what it would look like if you were kind of a bird's eye view over Canomo Avenue and looking past the tennis courts, and the new Pickering would be down on Magnolia Park. So not to beat a dead horse, but this option was somewhere around, we think it's around 195,000, million dollars. We know that you're going to spend at least 20 million just putting a foundation in for this, which is why we looked at option 7. Because it's just kind of a shame to bury $20 million and not get any benefit from it. So that's, I don't know if anyone has any questions about that one. Tom, is your hand up?
Yeah, Gene, I just want to say, that's the one where you're gonna drive 60 piles down 160 feet. Most disruptive to the neighborhood, the senior citizens next door. It's kind of like an awful lot of disruption to build a school at that spot. Be my
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah, it's about, we think it's about $30 million more expensive than just building it in this area, which,
Just for the foundation so you can build.
Lorraine, your hand's still up, but
Yeah, no, I just put it up again because I wanted to go over the same thing Tom was going over. One end, you drilled down and the neighbors felt that drilling and it went down 161 feet, and on the opposite end, it went 140 feet.
yeah, somewhere around there. Yep.
So it would be an awful lot of money to fill in that foundation. I just wanted to go over that and make sure that point was clear.
Just as a point of reference, the piles at the deepest pile at Thurgood Marshall was 100 feet, I believe, right, Jean?
Yeah, so these piles are much, well, they're deeper, but they're more expensive too.
Yeah.
Much more expensive. And then I think I said this last time, but kind of the wild card is when we start digging and doing all this earthwork out on this park, we don't know what we're gonna find. So you'd have to carry like a larger contingency for unknowns.
This was originally part of the pond, and so it was more of a pond bed, park area.
Yeah, it was all infill. Yep. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions about this one, but again, we think it's about $30 million more than maybe, building in this area over here. And a lot more kind of risk, a lot more unknowns with the site. This one mitigates that a little bit because we have a smaller footprint. This is the one where we build the 4 stories on Magnolia, but we put the 2-story building up on the Sisson site. Unfortunately, we end up with a little more square footage and we have to accommodate, a bridge connection. So believe it or not, this one, even though it has a little less foundation work, is we think just about the same cost as the one we just looked at. And this is a view, if you're over Flax Pond, kind of in a helicopter looking at it. We have the 4-story academic portion facing Flax Pond. And then we have the bridge like you'd have over at Logan Airport, connecting, to the upper level where the Sisson parking lot is. We'd have the cafeteria. We think it would be, we try to make it look over the pond, which would be a nice view. And then we'd have the gym over here. Again, I won't go through the floor plans, but it's 4 stories and it does fit all the all the space summary spaces. And this is what it would look like kind of if you were over the housing authority and looking at the back end of it. So I guess what I would say about this one that's a little less desirable is we've taken up the Sisson recess area, but we don't have a lot of place to replace it. I mean, we'd have to replace it down here on Magnolia somewhere. But it's anything can happen, and maybe this building comes a little more this way, but you could see we start running into the basketball court and the community playground. So I'm not sure, we don't see this as desirable, and it didn't end up saving any money. I don't know if people have questions about this one or comments. If not, the final one, which is, as I say, we've labeled it the recommended option. It's about $30 million less, we think. We'll find out when the cost estimates come in, than building down on the field. It puts the new Pickering, it digs it into the hillside, and it pretty much takes a lot of that area where the recess area for Sisson, the tennis courts, and then we've also removed the 4 modulars. We'll show you later where the modulars, how, you know, how they could be accommodated, those spaces. The new Pickering would face Magnolia Field. So the traffic and the parking would be kind of down here for Pickering, and we could still have the main entry for Sisson up, you know, where it is now. We're gonna have to share some parking between the two, and there's more parking over here, you know, the existing parking lot for Pickering. So with any of the last 2 options I showed, or this one, just as a reminder, you know, Sisson stays in operation. It picks up the gym and the caf and the kitchen. And then this whole old Pickering is available either for Sisson to expand or for elementary swing space, or just more capacity for some use on the city's part. When we take a look, I think you've seen these before. I know you have. So if it is 5 stories facing Magnolia Park. I think, you know, we could treat it like we treated Thurgood Marshall, where we have kind of a masonry base. Maybe it's a darker color. And then everything above that becomes kind of a white panel, maybe with some wood accents. But the idea is to try to have the thing be light on the site. If we had made this 5-story building all brick like the existing Pickering, you can just imagine how it would feel like a big heavy block. So we'll show you pictures of Thurgood Marshall, but you know, we know we can deal with the height.
So the 4 stories are, it's along the top elevation of Sisson and where the residential houses are, and along the side where the residential houses off Magnolia Avenue are.
Yeah, that's correct, Lynn. The top 3 would be light colored, and then we have this nice dark base. So that's 4 stories along Canomo, and most of the ones along Magnolia. And it kind of drops to 5 just when you're facing the park. We went through the plans last time. Again, we know we can fit the whole program in 5 stories. And I'm not sure, you know, we just put the same kind of colored accents we had at Thurgood Marshall. I always have to remind everybody at this stage of the design, everything you're seeing, the plans, the images, they're all kind of cartoons, you know, none of it's a proposal or a final design. We're just trying to tell people what the scale might be. But we've removed the 4 modulars at the end of Sisson, which again, we can replace within Pickering. We've left the 1-story. Sisson's got 2-story wing, and then all of a sudden at the last end of it, they went to 1-story. So we're trying desperately, and we will try desperately as we go through schematics and site plan to keep these, just to make the project a little more cost effective. But we're balancing, trying to leave a planting buffer and make sure the building fits. So I can't say that, I don't know, 2 months from now, we might come in and say, oh, you know, I think it might be better if we took down, you know, this 1-story portion. But for now, we think, you know, and our goal is to try to maintain that. And then this is what it would look like from the park. I think when you start breaking the tall facade into smaller pieces, you have a base and a top, you know, it really starts to scale down the building and feel kind of comfortable. These tall windows, this would be the cafeteria. So the cafeteria would look out onto the park, and this would be the main entrance. And then this is what it would look like if you were flying over Canomo Ave. So
Hey, Jean, why does it always look like it's 3 stories above there?
Well,
When
because
looking at this, it looks like there's only 3 stories above and 2 below.
it's kind of a trick of the eye, which is what we try to do. The bottom story we might do with a charcoal colored brick like we did at Thurgood Marshall. So it's very vandal resistant, and then do lighter materials up top. So we have three floors of light materials, and then it's a little bit hard to see just because of the color, Lorraine, but the fourth story is behind that charcoal brick.
One other question is, would there be any way that we would have some exit doors? Like that would go out into the parking lot in the back there, or go out in that space so people could exit out that way?
Oh, this way?
Yeah,
Yeah, there absolutely would be. And again, those floor plans are just test fits, we call them. We really need to refine the plan and actually develop it. But what we've shown so far, Lorraine, is a slot here that would be a staircase that could come out to this level. And I
Okay.
think we're showing another staircase in the plan anyway, kind of here.
okay,
We
All
would
right.
definitely want people to be able to kind of get out of the building on all the sides.
thank you.
So again, we put it in italics. This is kind of what we would recommend, just because there's less risk, less unknowns on the site. And I feel very comfortable that we can make the building work and fit in well. So,
This has standard spread footings, so it's a much less disruptive foundation system.
Tom,
let's see.
Gene, that's what I was gonna ask. Obviously, the site development, we're not gonna go through the piles and everything here. This is gonna be probably a standard foundation. I would assume you're gonna use steel to build the building.
Yeah, we'll definitely use steel. It'll all be
Yeah.
fireproofed. The foundations, I want to say we have one boring up here. And if we had thought that we'd build up here, we might have put a second. We are assuming the one boring we have, the soils are good, right? There's 10 feet of
Okay.
fill and then it's silty sand. So we are assuming that this would be spread footings, but Tom, during the next phase, we really need to get a lot more geotechnical work
Yeah.
done. I know it's going to be a lot less expensive than building on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we're not going to come across, I don't know, unforeseen things.
$200 a square yard to remove the dirt is ridiculous, so.
Yeah, it's pretty mind boggling. Peter, did you have a question?
I do, really quick, and I know these are all just drawings and schematics, and a lot more work needs to be, as you said, fit tested and the like. But the taller the building is, I just want to, just put it out there that I did take there was an open house at Thurgood Marshall last week that I took advantage of going over there, and the recurring comments or themes on a multi-story building is fire drills.
Oh, okay.
And specifically not allowed to use clearly the elevators on fire drills, and with the fire department and the like. A lot of the children there, especially in the life skills and the coach programs, have, mobile devices that, they either need a wheelchair or braces and the like. And it forces a lot of the teachers and the paraprofessionals that's in those rooms to literally carry the children down the stairs during a fire drill.
Yeah.
So I just wanna, again, I love the schematics, I love the tall building, no problem. But as you're going through the fit test, there's no ramps to kind of, I'm not saying that you have to retrofit a ramp in there, but please take into consideration, the elevators are not in use during, obviously, a fire, never alone a fire drill. And it forces a lot of people to literally hand carry some of these children down flights and flights of stairs. So,
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. When we started the design process, we met with the school department and said, what works and what doesn't work at Thurgood Marshall. And one of their first comments was, we have life skills and coach up on the second floor. I believe it's the second. And they said it really needs to be on a ground level.
it's higher than that. It's on the third floor.
Is on the third. So we took that to heart. The first floor in this, we have going out to Magnolia, but the floor above it goes out to the Sisson parking lot. So we put the life skills and coach there, knowing that they could just go to, it's pretty much another ground floor.
Great, thank you for that follow-up. I just wanted to put it out there early on in any stage, regardless if it's a 2-story or a 5-story building. I just wanted to put it out
Yep. Karen, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a comment and a question. First, one of the things that has been resonating with me that you said at the last meeting, Gene, in reference to the 4-story, and we're kind of talking about what the response of the abutters on Canoma might be. And you had said that Thurgood Marshall, as a 4-story building, does not overpower that neighborhood. And for me, I've been going back and forth to Thurgood all month to the elementary basketball games, and I couldn't agree with you more. I actually had to take a closer look at the building the last time I was there to kind of say, wow, he was so right. It does not overpower that neighborhood at all. And you really don't get a sense that it is a 4-story building unless you pay attention closely.
Yeah.
So I hope that when we roll this out to the public, people can appreciate that. The question that I had was that where we're going to then be putting parking on the park side, will we still have to go forth with an Article 97 if we're taking any of that park space for parking?
We will, because it's a change of use. This yellow line is the school property, and it dives in, and then it kind of connects here. So we actually have part of the building that needs to be Article 97, on Magnolia, but just by turning field into parking, it's kicking us into the same situation.
Okay, thank you.
It's less acreage that you need to replace, right? But still the
Right.
same process.
It is, we're still, we're working, we have kind of a subgroup where we're still trying, and frankly, we're recommending that this whole parcel still be transferred out of Article 97, so that as the design progresses, which could be many, many months of work, we have flexibility. Like if we said, oh, just take the parking for Article 97, and then 3 months later, we figured out, oh, you know what, we need more parking, or we need this or that, we'd kind of be boxed out of it. Does that make sense, Mayor Nicholson?
Yeah, that's fine. And we would potentially still have some flexibility as we work through that on the back end, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, oh, go ahead, Lorraine.
I wanted to, can we go back to the the 7 recommendations showing the actual building?
Yes. You mean one of these?
Yes. 2 things. One, I want to piggyback on what Peter said, because he is so right. That's why I keep asking about doorways in the back for fire safety reasons. How are our students going to get out? Are they going to have multiple exits, first of all? And I know at Breed we had ramps, a ramp that
Okay, yeah.
if we have a ramp, it makes it easier for them, the special ed students and staff as they work. And that's why I'm so glad Peter brought that up, because that's what my thinking is when I'm asking about exit. It's always fire safety in my mind.
Mhm.
Then on the top, you have of the building above where the first and second floor is, there's a green spot. What
Correct.
is that?
That is,
It looks like a triangle.
yeah, this. So,
Yeah.
what we always want to do is make sure we can get natural light, windows or skylights into every space in a building, right?
Mhm.
So if we took this whole big shape and we brought all the windows out here, we'd have a lot of internal space, Lorraine.
Yeah.
So we kind of broke it into 2 wings. It doesn't look like an L, but it is. And then Down in here, we have a skylight kind of into the lobby.
Okay,
And then this could just be outdoor learning space of some
Okay.
sort.
all right. I just was curious the whole time I'm looking at that, thinking, what is that? Thank you.
And Lorraine, it probably will evolve from here. So. No, so there was a, I think through the project website, someone had, raised some issues that we, some feedback on this option 7. And then I just wanted to go through some of our responses. I wanted to honor, the questions that came in. And so I've kind of put them into categories. So the first one was, that you have a 5-story mass, and it sounds kind of scary. I think we've touched on it, and it was nice to hear Karen agreed, but it's essentially 4 stories facing the neighbors. And, I'm just super confident that, we can have this building so that it's not looming over the neighbors. I would say that the distance between Thurgood Marshall and the abutters across the street, I think we're going to end up with more distance, at the new Pickering. And then we are trying to make sure we can leave some sort of planting buffers for some evergreen shielding. I guess this is just a picture of it, but we think we have more distance, to the homes, but we're very cognizant about trying to get some shielding, over these yards here. And the same thing with the yards at Canoma, even though there's very little shielding right now. Another topic that came up was, oh, you're taking away the modular classroom space for these 2 years before we can move into, parts of Pickering. And, we don't have enough space as it is. So I just wanted, I wanted to tell you what's in the modulars. There's 2 kindergarten classrooms, 2 special ed classrooms, and there's a small office. And I'll show you, we think we could get in unused space next to the gym at Pickering, we could create 2 classrooms. The auditorium, as I'd mentioned last time, we could get 3 classrooms plus an office. If we wanted to fit out the balcony, we could get another classroom there. And I'll show you plans of all these. And we could drop some modulars in the back of Pickering. I don't think it's desirable because it's more expensive and it's also disconnected from the flow of the school. Or you could say, well, there's 2 special ed classrooms, maybe for a couple of years, they have to be relocated to another school. So I'm not advocating one or another, but I just wanted to give you guys a sense. If we take these 4 classrooms offline, and then this small office, this is just a door that is an exit door. There's kind of a slot here next to the gym where we could fit in 2 classrooms that could have windows. We could put 1, 2, 3 classrooms in the gymnasium. They could all be the same size as the classrooms at Sisson. We'd have leftover space on the stage for an office. If you really wanted to push, classrooms, you could have another one up on the balcony. And what we're showing here in the gray tone is even if we just did these 2 classrooms in unused space, and then we took a couple of the Pickering classrooms and we said, oh, that's all connected to Sisson, right? So Sisson's always on the left side. We could create these classrooms to replace the Pickering classrooms over here. I'm going to ask some people to be quiet. So again, this could all be worked into the project budget. The other option is down on the ground level, where the cafeteria is. We could fit a couple of modulars. We've shown the parking area. So we were trying to put them back off the parking. Again, they'd be disconnected from the building. They have to be 20 feet away, and to me, they're kind of out of the flow of the building too. So, I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, but I could say with confidence that I'm sure we could keep these learning spaces somewhere within the building if that's what everyone wants to do. The long-term space needs, there was talk about the existing system is overcrowded. We totally agree. There's a lack of core facilities at Sisson. There's no CAF, no gym, no auditorium. And there's no space for specials, art, music, wellness, things that other schools have. So I guess this has always been part of the beauty of building a new building. You essentially can capture all these spaces in the existing Pickering and, have plenty of room for more enrollment, more specials, core facilities like the gym and the auditorium and the cafeteria. And so we did a little analysis. Right now, there are 6 grade levels at Sisson, and there's 3 classrooms per grade. So there's 18 classrooms at Sisson. There's no room for art, music, all that. You could double Sisson's enrollment to 6 classrooms per grade, and you'd still have 12 to 16 other Pickering spaces, for other use. So you could increase Sisson's enrollment to 7 classrooms per grade level, and you'd still have 6 to 9 other spaces in Pickering. So it just gives you a sense of the scale, what the asset you'll be left with after you construct the new Pickering. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. I don't want to drive everyone crazy. I'll just keep going. The condition of the old Pickering, we've done a very thorough analysis of what you could do if you wanted to bring the building up to code. It's about $76 million, we think. So, depending what the city decides to do, I would say with confidence that, you could bite off as little or as much as you want to do to address kind of physical conditions at Pickering, if it were to be used for another use. And then traffic was another concern that was raised, and we don't have a definitive report for you on traffic, but there's been a lot of traffic study going on in the background, and I started to show you this last time. We're trying to figure out, depending how the middle schools are redistricted, what roads are going to see an increase in traffic. And then we're even getting down to, like on Magnolia Ave, in the morning or the afternoon, how many more cars do we think would be, on Magnolia, and how many more would be on Broadway? So we don't have any conclusions for you yet, but we know that's a very important thing. And I just want you to know that we are studying it. And then finally, parking. So the new Pickering would require 140 spaces. The existing Sisson needs 55. And then if you filled out the old Pickering with new educational space, we figure it'd be about 75 spaces. So 270 spaces. We'd like to get everyone somewhere on this campus so that people are not out in the street. And we have laid out all of these options accordingly so that we're showing 270 spaces. As we progress the design, we may be changing the configuration of some of these drives or parking lots. But again, we want to prove to ourselves that this campus can have a new building, the existing Sisson, and a new use for the old Pickering, and house all the cars. Then finally,
Just so sorry, I read a question from Tom.
sure,
Yeah,
I'm so
Gene.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Just one thing, looking at the parking, is there gonna be a break in between? So, cars can't just cut straight through? If
Oh,
they want to
yes.
use that as a cut through, is there gonna be a break between these parking lots?
Yeah,
What's
Mike Donovan's been all over that.
Yeah,
That we've got to have control so people aren't scooting around Wyoma Square.
right.
So right now we're showing, conceptually a couple of gates that might be open
Okay.
during drop off and pickup, but closed during the rest of the day.
All right, that'd be a big, I live off of Euclid Ave, so it's kind of like, I understand the traffic in the area, Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm trying to go through things fast so people aren't here all night, but I'm happy to answer any questions on any of that stuff if you want.
You leave it open though.
The last thing I would just say is, how do you live through this, or what are the logistics? So we're back here at the PSR stage, but at some point, hopefully it gets into this construction stage and then moving in. So how would that work, right? So in the spring, let's assume we stay on schedule. The spring and summer of 2024, we would be doing kind of preparation work, right? We know that we're going to be digging up the existing Sisson playground. So maybe the summer before, the contractor's in here and they're creating the new playground for Sisson. We're taking parking from Sisson. So, we expand the parking during that summer. We know that we have to take down the modulars. So, you're doing whatever renovations or putting modulars or whatever you want to do, to accommodate what was in those modulars. And then we also would want to relocate the park and the basketball court, down into here, knowing that at some point the contractor is going to want to use this area to come in and access his building. So during the spring and summer, there would be some kind of pre-construction activities that are going on. And then from the summer of 2024 through the spring of 2026, you'd be operating Sisson, you'd have the recess, you'd have the parking, you'd be operating Pickering, and you'd be building the new Pickering. And the contractor's access would be off Magnolia, and they'd be using this as their staging area. But the community could use, the court, the playground, and all the parking in the back could still be off of Broadway. So by the spring of 2026, you've completed the new, and then in the summer of 2026, before school starts, you're fitting it out with computers and furniture. The contractor is completing the park improvements, no longer needs a staging area. And then I don't know if you will be doing something right away, but you could also be in kind of fixing up the old Pickering if you needed more elementary capacity. So that's just, it's a very logical and very doable project as far as construction phasing. And we just wanted to make sure that people understood that too. And that really is kind of the basis for our recommendation. And I don't know if people want to discuss it, feel like we're on the right track, want to take a vote. I'll leave it up to you guys.
So I'll just make a process observation here. I think, one of the things that we had talked about was turning one of the upcoming meetings into a community forum, like a public meeting. So I think it would be helpful to get to talk that through, what that calendar would look like. And that might be a good reason for us to obviously it's helpful to get everybody's thoughts in terms of what people are thinking, but to actually take the vote when we've had the opportunity to give folks a chance to share the thoughts in a public forum.
That's actually a good idea.
I would echo that, Mayor Nicholson. And I think looking back to the challenge we faced 6 years ago, I think the vote was taken and then there wasn't really an opportunity to have the public discussion, or it was almost felt like there was a done deal at that point. So I think it makes sense to with your recommendation. That would be I would support that as well.
Also, we've been talking about doing it on April 10th, and at that point, we'll have the cost estimates in as well.
I was mentioning that the last meeting, Mayor, and I really agree with you on this. I think that people have to come in and see the actual transition, all the thought that went into this project, why we walked away from certain things, why we moved to this project. These are answers they need to hear, and they need to hear it from us. And April 10th, I'm looking forward to it, and I am going to have a committee run around the neighborhoods with what information you provide to us for the committee. And I know that 3 of us from the school committee will go around those abutters and talk to the people so they understand what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Hey, Jean, do you want to advance the slides?
Sure.
So now it's up to you, Lynn.
Yes. So I'm sure you're wondering why we're talking about construction delivery methods so early in the process, but as you saw in the previous slides, as Jean went through all the various phasings and everything, it really is the appropriate time to talk about it and make a decision on which direction we want to go. In terms of what we've been doing lately, because of the great volatility in the construction market, a lot of our projects have gone CM at risk in order to bring a construction manager on early in the design process to help us estimate the project and be confident going into at the end of schematic design, be confident with our construction estimate and our total project budget. So therefore, that's why we're bringing this discussion about CM at risk versus design bid build to you tonight. And hopefully we can provide enough information for you to make a decision on which way you want to go. But design bid build is the Mass General Laws, Chapter 149. It is the standard construction delivery method. And then back in 2004, construction management at risk, Mass General Law, Chapter 149 was introduced. Next slide, please. And as I said, back in 2004, this second option for construction delivery methods was provided, and it was for projects that were estimated to be cost over $5 million. And since January 1st of 2005, CM at risk has been an option. Next slide, please. So what is design bid build? As I said, it's the traditional approach for public construction. It's where the design team completes all of the construction documents in advance with no contractor involvement. And then once the plans are complete, they're bid first to file sub bidders and then to general contractors. And the low bid is accepted in each of these instances. With the cost of this project, there will be some opportunity to pre-qualify, but and we will go through a pre-qualification process for file subbidders and general contractors if this option is chosen. However, it's still you're at the mercy of whoever the low bidder actually ends up being. They are the ones that get awarded the project. And the value of the project is a lump sum amount at that point. Next slide. So what is construction management risk? The construction manager or the CM, they're hired during the design process, and they help with providing pre-construction services, in that they help with the constructability of the project, the logistics, the phasing, how are we going to put together the construction documents in a way that optimizes bidding and allows the phases to happen without missing scope. The CM becomes the overall builder of the project, and they start before the drawings are even complete. They participate. We also still pre-qualify the trade contractors or file sub bidders, and they participate in that pre-qualification process and help. And the owner also has the option to participate in selecting all subcontractors and pre-qualifying all trade contractors. So this delivery method also allows for early bid packages to occur, as Jean was explaining some of the phasing that we would likely go through on the project. We couldn't do that with a design bid bill. We would have to wait until all the construction documents were complete and bidded at one time. And we couldn't get pieces of the project done earlier in order to fast track the schedule. And then once you get to the final pricing, it's a guaranteed maximum price. And it's open book accounting. So if there are any changes throughout the process, you have the ability to see where you are at any point in terms of the guaranteed maximum price budget. Next slide. Some of the advantages and disadvantages of design bid build and CM at risk. The design bid build is a very familiar construction delivery method. It's typically a much simpler process to manage. The bids are based on a fully defined project scope. And most people feel that you get the best price and by awarding to the lowest responsible bidder. The owner and designer control the design up until the point of bidding. And it's a simple accounting process. Typically, in my opinion, it's best suited for less complicated projects that are budget sensitive, but are not schedule sensitive and not subject to a lot of unknowns or changes. The CM at risk advantages are you choose your CM based on qualifications and the proposed team members rather than a lowest price or bid. They help you throughout the design phase with budgeting, site logistics, constructability, and they help to address any challenges early so that we can address them in the most physically responsible way. They provide early cost estimating and feedback throughout the design process to help with keeping the design on track with the budget. And there's the ability to fast track the schedule through early release bids. And it's more of a team concept where the owner, the OPM, and the designer and the CM all work together to bring the project to fruition. Typically, these CM at risk is best suited for projects that are time sensitive, challenging to define, or subject to potential changes or unknowns, projects requiring higher construction oversight due to site logistics and phasing, as well as multiple stakeholders. So with the tight site that we have, the adjacent neighbors and the two adjacent schools, and dealing with MWRA, as well as a lot of the city utilities, those are the types of situations that might be best suited for a CM at risk. Next slide. Some of the disadvantages of design, bid, build, and CM at risk are design, bid, build is more of a linear process, which typically equates to a longer schedule duration. It's a hard price. The hard price or the anticipated price is not known until the bids are received. And if they come in over budget, you might have to redesign and rebid the project, which pushes out the schedule further if it exceeds budget at that point. With a GC, you have minimal project management or overall, and the GC has no input into the design or the planning or the budgets. And the designer has limited access to scheduling and cost ramifications as the design is developed, which often leads to a more costly final product. Oftentimes with a scenario like this, any changes become adversarial because you're presented with a hard bid, and as we all know, changes do occur throughout construction, and there's less flexibility to maneuver with a hard bid price as there is with maybe a CM at risk. With the CM at risk, there's you have to understand the CM at risk process and the mechanics of a guaranteed maximum price and how to operate within that. For the Thurgood Marshall School, we were able to deliver the building completely within the guaranteed maximum price without using any of our external contingencies, which was a big savings to the city. And typically people consider this a higher upfront cost with a CM at risk because when they're developing the guaranteed maximum price, they're filling in all the holes in scope within the gaps or any anticipating any mitigating any future risks or change orders when they develop the GMP. Then also, the only area where you might have an adversarial relationship with the CM at risk is when you are talking about they own design intent versus and realizing that and trying to stay within budget. Sometimes there's some adversarial relationships that develop when you're trying to cut price to stay within budget. But typically, in my experience, it's been more of a team relationship. And whenever we get to a point where we might have to value engineer the project. And in that terms, I mean, as we go along, we'd be having estimates at every phase of the design. So if the estimates start to come in higher at design development than we had established the budget at schematic design, we would be working with a CM to get the project back in line with the budget that we originally set. And we had that opportunity at design development, the 60% construction documents and the 90% construction documents, so that we pretty much right size the design to the budget before ever going out to bid. So those would be the advantages and disadvantages of both the design, bid, build, and CM at risk. Next slide, please. The key differences between design, bid, build, and CM at risk. With a CM, you are actually selecting who you want to work with, the team that you want to work with, and you have the ability to continuously manage the design and construction together, and making sure that both are aware of each other's progress on the project, and that we're filling in all the gaps in the plans and specifications. You have this construction services that help to continuously maintain and manage the budget throughout design, and provide pre-planning of the construction, as well as aiding in the constructability and means and methods of the design. There's a flexibility to adjust should bids or estimates come in higher than the budget throughout the process of the design or during the bidding. And we also have the ability to fast track the construction by the use of early bid packages. It basically is a better management of changes throughout the process. And then with design bid build, you have to select the lowest pre-qualified bidder, and you are purchasing a building based only on plans and specification. The price is set with no flexibility. The schedule is set, and all changes would result in a change order versus potentially a management of that change within the GMP. Next. So does anyone have any questions on these two delivery methods? Or if you'd like more explanation on either of them?
So Lynn, you're bringing this up because if they decide to do CM at risk, you'd have to go through a process pretty kind of now's the time to go to the process of
The reason
identifying
the reason we're bringing it up now is because should you decide to go CM at risk, we would want to get a CM on board in time to help us out with the schematic design estimate. And that's the estimate in the project budget that we will be presenting to the MSBA and to the city for approval. And that's the budget that we need to maintain for the next 3+ years throughout design and construction. We'll have to make sure that we stay within that budget for the duration of the project once it's set. So if we were to go the CM at risk route, we would need to submit an application to the Office of the Inspector General, and they would have to approve us. Then we'd have to go through a pre-qualification process for construction managers, and then we would have to request proposals from construction managers. And all of this would take a couple of months to do. So that's why we'd have to get started on it right away if this is the preferred method that you'd like to go with. Flory?
There's that, yeah, okay.
Lynn, do you have a list of preferred CMs? And if you do, can you share it?
Yes, we have a list that we have commonly worked with. There's quite a few. Do you want me to share it now or?
No, not now. Maybe in the future. Okay. Just to kind of see who's on the list.
Okay.
Rich.
Yeah, so I know that there's been a lot of projects that have been running over for the last several years. My understanding is most of those have been CM at risk projects. I think every school virtually is built under CM at risk. So I'm just a little concerned. I guess I'm a little concerned is how much we can guarantee the costs are going to come in when the bids are open, because that has been happening for the last year or so. Hopefully they're going to start coming down, but we're not guaranteeing that the price we set is going to be the price, because things have been a little nuts for the last at least year and a half, correct?
Correct. And that's another reason why, as of late, we've been bringing on the CM at the schematic design phase. Because if you notice, the ones that over the past year that had more problems with bids coming in higher than the budgets, they weren't part of the budget setting process. And so we found that we've been successful with other projects by bringing them on at schematic design and helping, letting them help us set the construction budget, construction estimate and the total project budget, so that we can feel confident with the budget when we submit it to MSBA.
Mike Donovan, did you have a question? Point?
No, I just wanted to say that the city has done a lot of construction projects under the conventional method, design, bid, build, and then when we did the Thurgood Marshall project under CM at risk, the process went a lot smoother. There was less conflict on the job, and the outcome was better financially and a smoother project for the city. And I understand the past year inflation has driven the prices of construction up quite a bit. But one of the benefits of having the CM on the job during your design is that typically a construction manager is in closer tune with the market and where the market is today with prices of materials, delivery times, and methods for workers, so that you will get a better feel for it.
I will
But
say,
I just have a quick question for Mike here, if I can just jump in real quick. In terms of value engineer, were any value engineer on that project, and how was that process?
Yes, and Lynn can get into this too. We did value engineering on the Thurgood Marshall project with the CM to go through different methods, types of finishes, type of mechanical work, if I recall correctly. And it helped to have the contractor on board at the time. Frankly, if you were building your own house, you would have a contractor working with your architect to get it done. So you'd have a better input upon the construction market today, and then the means and methods which the contractor owns and what can be better delivered in a time frame.
I will say too that we have found that with the long lead times of items today, it's been better to have a CM on board early, because we've been letting mechanical and electrical equipment as a bid package much earlier than we normally would because of the long lead items. So having, doing this with the CM allows you that opportunity, because some of these pieces of equipment, if we waited until bid date, we wouldn't have them in time. Rich? Did you have another question? You're on mute.
No, I didn't. I just didn't take my hand
Oh,
down.
I just saw, okay, thanks. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I mean, from my perspective, it seems like the CM at risk, from everything you've shared here tonight, is the right approach given the complexity of the project. If others have other thoughts, we'd love to hear. But given the complexity of this project and the importance of having that perspective in the design process, it seems like that would be valuable. Lorraine?
I agree with the mayor on this. I just remember that at the end of Thurgood Marshall being built, it was a very pleasant surprise to have it built on time in great condition. And I believe it even won an award. Didn't it win an award for being one of the best middle schools built? And I think that we should follow Mike Donovan's suggestion, Lynn's suggestion, and vote the CM. And that's coming from me, who really doesn't know anything about construction. So I just know what happened, how good it came in, and how happy we were at the end with the product.
I think if you spoke to Molly as well, as when she was the principal of Thurgood Marshall, she would also say that it was a much easier move-in process. And, as with any new building, when you move in, there's always things that come up, and having the CM right there to take care of things right away It's just a much nicer process all around.
I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. We talked a lot about, or I've talked a lot about the risk, of building on Magnolia Park with unknowns. So you're really mitigating risk by going this way, having a contractor on board early. And you're mitigating schedule risk too, because we can do all that pre-construction work. We have all these packages. We don't have to design the whole thing before we get a contractor. We can be putting out all these early packages, and it really is the way to accelerate the schedule. And with an inflationary environment, that can only help.
I'd suggest, if there's no other questions, I think you've made some really great points across the board that this is the direction to go, and I think that seems to be the consensus. I would make a motion to accept that is the preferred direction to go.
Second.
With this,
Okay,
Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Yes.
Brian Castellanos, Deb Ruggiero,
Yes.
Diana Charcutis, sorry. Lori Makua,
Yes.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley,
yes,
John Ford, Joe Smart,
yes.
Karen Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Yes.
Lauren Drago,
Yes.
Lorraine Gately,
Yes.
Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan,
Yes.
Molly Cohen, Peter Koulikitis,
Yes.
Rich Marlin,
Yes.
Rick Starburn, Tom Mannion,
Yes.
Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Wayne Lozey. That's it. Thank you, everyone. We'll get started on submitting an application to the Inspector General's office. So just quickly, I'll make this quick. We're looking to submit the preferred schematic report on April 27th. We're looking for the April 10th meeting to be a review of the cost estimates as well as a public forum. We'll start getting out flyers for the public forum later this week, beginning of next week. We will be providing a draft copy of the preferred schematic report to the committee and ask for a vote to submit to MSBA on April 24th. I won't go through the schematic design milestones as we really just need to focus on getting the preferred schematic report into MSBA on time. It will need to go in front of the MSBA Board of Directors at the June 21st meeting. So next slide. And we're doing all of this to target a September 2026 school opening. And it's a very tight and condensed schedule. So I think we've been doing a really good job as a committee, keeping things on track in order to accomplish that end date. And that's all I have for tonight.
Lynn, can I ask a logistical question?
Yes.
Well, two things. One, can we just make sure that Dr. Alvarez's email is on the calendar invites? I don't think she got this one. I forwarded it to her. She is on this call, but she didn't get the Zoom link. So I
Okay,
just wanted
I
to make sure that
apologize for
happened. The other thing, the April 10th meeting, is that in person or virtual or or both? I don't know. How are we doing the public forum?
My guess is it would be on hybrid, and that's what we need to figure out, those logistics, so that we can get the flyer out and also get it translated.
I have a question about just having, is there a way for community members to submit questions also in advance so that we can try to have all the answers that evening for many of those questions, because I don't know, there may be things that require research, or we need to involve maybe some of the school leaders and ask some further questions, especially when we're talking about, evacuation plans, or, what are our long-term plans on how many students are we thinking, right, that would be in a situation where we would have to lift and carry. All those things, obviously, we will address. Deb and I can work together between now and then to address, but there may be other questions that we also want to prepare for. Is there a way we can, as we advertise this, to collect those questions and start preparing responses, or, have some answers?
Yes, we do have a project building site. It's listed here. You can ask questions through that website. As a matter of fact, we've received a couple of them, which we tried to respond to tonight. So anybody can send a notice into the project and ask any question, and we do respond to all of them.
But, and just to build on that too, I think it's a great point, Dr. Alvarez, and we can, in the communication around the promotion of this, we can really point people to that and say, come to this forum, April 10th, submit your questions in advance. And then we can talk internally if it's worth doing some kind of, there's other ways to do it, like if we created a temporary Google form or directed people to a specific social media channel, something like that. So we can huddle with the project team on that. But I think that's a good point to make that a ask of folks who are interested to help us prepare, also to sort of help us be ready to take the vote that we need to take, because we're going to feel a lot better about that if we're able to know that we've been able to address the question. So I think that's a good point.
And if we can pull that together early enough, I can get it out on School Messenger, so that, and I'll send it out to the entire district. That way, anyone who, lives in the area, I don't want to miss anyone. I don't want to pick certain schools. I think I just put it out to anyone. And we can include either the document that you're referring to, Mayor Nicholson, or a survey document that allows for an option to type in questions, whatever that may be. I can include that in it.
Yeah, and obviously we'll have to be thoughtful about setting the right expectations, right? Like we don't want to we want the responses. We also want to be able to meet the expectations for that night. So we like group questions and answer them all at once, the forum, and are looking at themes and so on and so forth. But I think we can try to make that a push to sort of prepare as best we can. I think it's a good point.
I also would like to recommend that we do both in person and online like we did the last time, Lynn. It seemed to work out because it was a bad night. Weather-wise, some people can make it, some people went online when we chose a site. So I like that the best. Great suggestions.
So I don't know who this is addressed to, but it seems to me from listening to the presentation that the biggest set of unknowns, and I'm not sure if it's our responsibility or it's the schools, but the modular classrooms and what's going to happen to those students, particularly, I don't know anything about the special needs students who are there and kind of what level they're at or whatnot, but having answers as to what we think that's going to be, and is that part of the school, our budget, or is that going to be a different budget? It's going to have to deal with either constructing things in the Pickering school or whatever the options are for that. But I think I would assume that's going to raise a lot of concerns by the parents whose children are in those classrooms.
I agree. And I know that as Jean noted in the presentation, that there are 2 kindergarten classes and 2 special needs classes. But I also know that in the school, the main building, there are 2 additional special education classrooms. The bottom line is 4 classrooms get impacted. And so it's never a first choice to move special education classrooms. But they unfortunately are more flexible in being able to be moved. I think we need to be really mindful of what the decision is. I think Pickering, as Gene noted in his presentation, Pickering, there are options to utilize space within Pickering, but that will involve a cost. I don't know what that cost will be, but it will be a cost, versus temporarily relocating until the new Pickering is built, and then you bring back whatever classes we had to move. But we have to come to a decision and really discuss what is the best option.
And I don't really think that it has to be those particular classrooms. We could take a look at the whole school district to see what neighboring schools may have extra space in first grade or whatever. So we have to be flexible on that, because sometimes special ed students, it's more difficult to move them, I think. So I was thinking that you mentioned it the last time, Deb, and I agree, but then I thought more about it. So you just have to almost redistrict some things or look at it in that view.
Peter?
Just to add to the, regarding the special needs students, it's not just relocating the class. You just have to be mindful that many of those students receive additional support through occupational therapy, physical therapy, and other type of therapies, speech therapy. So relocating them is one thing, whether it's to a module, whether it's another location, it's where they also have access to the therapies that they receive beyond the classroom. So many of the students receive multiple PT, OT, and speech during any given week. And so I just want this committee to be mindful that, yes, there might be some flexibility to relocate a classroom or 2, but what kind of trickle effect does that have with the additional services that they're required to have?
Yeah, absolutely. No, all great points. I think this is a critical issue for the community, and obviously one that all of us here in the committee, and especially the Lynn Public Schools, who are charged with these responsibilities, take really seriously. So I think it's a great point. Rich and Lorraine and Peter, and one that I know the team will be prepared to address. It's one of those things where I think because it's challenging and complicated, there may not be like an easy answer that has already been figured out. But I think we can be really transparent about what the issues are and what the options are and how we're going to work through those, and communicate the underlying commitment to those students.
And I just want to tag on to that to assure you that any services a student needs, we are obligated to provide those services, regardless where any student is, and that adjustment will be made, whether it's, redistricting general ed students, because they also get services at times, whether it's reading, special education, ESL, whatever it is, we are obligated to provide them the supports that they need. So we have to just figure out what is the best way to address the fact that we're losing 4 classrooms there. Taking down that modular is losing 4 classrooms.
Absolutely. Rich, did you have another question? Probably maybe just left his hand up. Okay.
Sorry, I just keep forgetting to turn my hand up.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Well, just want to say thank you, everyone, for the great questions. Thanks for the great presentation. It's exciting to know that we are on track, even with all the challenging issues we have. I mentioned last time, we're going to continue working on the funding side of things. And just as a preview, the school committee will be taking this up tomorrow night in hoping to add to the advocacy around this. And I think the city council is interested in doing the same. We've been working with the state delegation, who have been tremendously helpful and have had some great conversations with the various state agencies involved. And I know that they understand the issue and want to be helpful as well. So we will continue to keep you all updated on that aspect as well.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A great Easter,
Here,
everyone.
everyone. Good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
everyone.
Yeah, a few minutes.